Hey, my name is John, and have you ever picked up your phone without even thinking about it? Or just brushing your teeth before going to bed? These actions happen because of habits. It's actions that our brain do automatically without us even knowing about them. Today, I will discuss the science behind making habits. First, I will explain how habits form in the brain. I will discuss how the habit loop works, and then how to improve and change those bad habits that we want to be better at. To begin, let's look at how habits work and how they are formed in the brain. Habits develop because the brain tries to save energy and wants to be more efficient, so it makes shortcuts of neural pathways on our brain. According to the Harvard Health Publishing study, How Do Habits Work, repeated behaviors created a neural pathway in the brain that became stronger over time, making habits easier to perform for the brain and reducing the amount of energy used by the brain. The, this means that every time a person repeats an action, like exercising every morning, or going for a walk, or checking social media in class, or eating when feeling stressed, the brain learns that pattern and eventually performs it with little thought, without even thinking about it. The brain does this to conserve energy and make daily life more efficient. Now that we understand habits from the brain, let's examine the process known as the habit loop. The habit loop is a four step process called the habit loop. It's how most habits are built according to the Power of Habit by Charles Darwin. Habits consist of cue, craving, response, and reward. And here I have a visual clue where I can explain how the basic loop works. First, we have the cue. For example, in this example I use is looking at yourself at the mirror, right, and seeing, uh, and that's the cue of you just looking at yourself in the mirror every morning. You see a craving. You look at the mirror and you see that your teeth are dirty. You just woke up, maybe you didn't brush last night. Okay, then you have a response, right? You want to make it easy response. Brush your teeth. That's a response, and then you have a reward. Now your teeth are clean, and that's the basic way of how to build a habit and how habits are built. Another example would be, and then you can skip the craving part. For example, you have a cue of like being stressed, and the response is just eating. The craving, you crave the food, and then just eat it, and then the reward is just feeling better after you eat it. So over time, the brain starts associating the reward with the cue and maybe not thinking of the long term effect or the effects of just when the cue appears, it goes straight to what the reward is. And that's how you build bad habits because the brain thinks of the most efficient way, the least energy consuming possible, which is just cue response, reward, cue response, reward. Sometimes giving the craving even, and that's how bad habits work. Knowing how bad habits work, we can build into good habits. For example, uh, they may be difficult to break, and the idea is not perfection but repetition. A research from the University College of London, how long does a habit take to form? Um, it expands on how long a habit takes, and it shows that doing the same thing with a cue and a response and a reward for around 2 weeks starts building a habit on the brain. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. For example, a person that wants to stop being on their phone on social media so much, they can replace that cue of seeing their phone vibrate. So like, let me go get a cup of water. And they get a cup of water, and they relax, and they keep doing their homework or what they were doing. Or for example, they get the cue of being stressed, and they have that craving of wanting to eat, and then they redirect to a small walk, for example, and then they go on the small walk, and then they have the response, and then they have the reward of feeling better because there's different ways to deal with the same cue, and that's the whole idea that not all the cues n- not all the cues have only one response. There's different response for every cue, and There's bad ones, there's good ones, and the brain can differentiate with them. It just thinks cue response, reward instantly, and that's how you can come from a bad habit and start changing it into either a good habit or trying to redirect the habit into something lesser and lesser and lesser. So, in conclusion, today I explained how habits form in the brain, how the habit loops works, and how habits can be changed into better habits. The science behind habits shows that many everyday behaviors are shaped by repeated brain patterns and routines. By understanding how habit works, people can gain more control over their actions and they build routines that improve their lives and improve their habits into a better life, into a better habit loop, and into better responses, and into tricking the brain into doing what we want it to do, into improving and becoming better as a person. As for my sources, I did The Power of Habit by W. Charles, Harvard Hall Publishing, How Habit Works, and University College of London, How long does it take to form a habit? Thank you.